me ask you guys this because you were starting to talk about it a little bit in terms of discipline for you.
Oh, here we go.
Because
I know where this is going. Go for it. I know where this is going.
Because all right, so you are a father.
Yes.
You just became a father in January.
Yes.
And also, you're about to be a father.
Oh, we are 3
February
months
to be
away.
exact.
Yeah.
So I don't want
Yeah.
Shout out to Vanessa.
Oh yeah, he waited. He waited too long.
Yeah.
He was supposed to come around my birthday, but he took too long.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
took a
February.
little while. Yeah.
So my thing is this for you guys, like, you know, it's one thing to say how I would treat it, but for you, and you can even speak more to this because you're experiencing it right now and your own expectation.
Yep.
As first time fathers, as men, and especially with regards to how we were raised too. So there's certain things that we were, you know, and you might be able to relate to it too. Is as first time fathers, what is your experience and what is your expectation for how you will treat your son? For both of you, your firstborn is your son.
Yeah.
And how you will treat them in situations that are where discipline comes in.
Yeah.
How you would treat them when there are those awkward conversations that you need to have about, you know, just life stages, puberty, and just in general. Like, how do you plan to tackle some of those tough conversations that sometimes may be over analyzed by these by these father figures that we see in the media, that we see on these shows?
Right. I'll say this, 2 things. Well, number one, I'll just say from my experience, before Jaden got into the earth, was birthed to the earth, I thought I had a whole blueprint on how I was going to handle stuff. This was going to be, this is what I'm going to do. Nervous as hell, like, and scared as hell, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is what I'm going to do. If this happened, this happened, this happened. And I had some people come to me like, yo, like, the truth of the matter is that you're going to fail. Like, you're going to fail in some way, shape, or form. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to probably give him the wrong look that he didn't need. Something. Like, it's going to happen, but it's okay. Like, that's the beauty of being a father, is that you're not going to get it right all the time. But the fact is that he still is going to love you regardless. Like, that's the foundation. Love is the first thing. But worrying about if you're going to get it right, throw that out the window. Number 2 was, I noticed even in myself, well, first, I noticed when he got here, I just threw everything out the window. I was like, okay, day 1, go. Here it is. But number 2 is realizing that it is essential. It's so important to be a listener before you speak. Like, even as a father, even now, like, he's about to be 6 months. And I notice in times where he may cry, get frustrated, complain, whatever, I notice myself naturally saying what's wrong instead of telling him stop, or telling him, no, don't do that, or get away from this, or anything corrective first. It's what's wrong or what's happening. And I think a lot of fathers, and I'm not, I ain't no veteran. This is my first year of fatherhood. But what I've noticed...
Rookie season.
You know what I'm saying? Rookie season, so I still got the warm-ups on somewhere. But what I've noticed is a lot of times fathers, and just men in general, we have a hard time listening first. It's always speak first, or be proactive instead of just react in certain times.
You have to search yourself.
Yes. I'm not saying react in every situation, because sometimes when you react, that's the unhealthy response. Sometimes you just gotta be proactive. But in this situation, when it comes to a child, man, like, listening to your baby, even if they can't talk, even if they are goo goo gaga and all over the place, they can't talk yet, whatever, they still teething. It's really pretty interesting how well, as a father, like, you get to really see this person mature, and it develops your ability to now listen to him, like his needs, his wants. What is he looking for? What does he need? What is he trying to say with his eyes? And from there, if you allow yourself to, like, really take that in, instead of feeling like you got to correct first, then it's much easier now in the near future to correct, because now you understand him. I have an understanding of my child, so therefore now I know where to correct him. I know how to correct him, and instead of just trying to change his whole makeup. Like, if he likes chocolate ice cream, I'm not gonna sit here and force vanilla ice cream down his no.
No, give him chocolate milk too.
Give him chocolate milk or chocolate shake. You know what I'm saying? All of it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just what it is. And I think that's the best example I can give as far as correction doesn't have to be abuse. You know, using your power in that way is abusive. I will say that. But when you're able to use your power in love and authority in love, use your authority in love, then that's where that child, when they get older, they can receive that. They accept that. They respond to that. They respond to that type of authority. But let's not be fooled. Like, they're not dumb. So they're going to grow up and be like, hold up, bro. Like, I realize you're talking to me this way. I know it's wrong, but there's nothing I can do about it. And that ensues trauma. That now births out this feeling of, oh, I'm trapped and I don't know how to express myself because people are talking to me every kind of way, but I don't know how to express that because I get it from my dad or I get it from my mom. And it's such a dangerous thing that I feel like I've noticed in myself that you gotta make sure you listen first, even as a baby. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that. They want to correct. They want to demand, correct, shift everything already when they're toddlers. And it's like, wait, like let them be toddlers. Like, let them do them. Like, if they got their eyes looking at the sun, then let them look at the sun. And if they find not looking into the sun,
I was gonna say, but at least give them some Ray-Bans. Give them some baby Ray-Bans,
sunglasses. But no, like when it comes to if they like looking at the sunset, for example, I'm not gonna deter them away and be like, oh, don't do this, let's do this because that's better. Like, what if my son actually like sitting on the dock of the bay?
At that point, your son is really like 70 years old.
Laid back in the spirit. Benjamin Button. Listen, you know, might as well crank out some Bill Withers soundtrack. But like, it's just important to listen to your child. Like, don't feel like you got to correct because all of a sudden you know better because now you're in the role of being a parent. Just because you're in the role of being a parent does not mean you know everything. It just doesn't. Sometimes the parent know more than you. Obviously, they know themselves. They know what they like. So that's what I've learned, and that's, I guess, my encouragement to people who are about to be parents or soon to be parents is just be listeners. Whatever you thought you learned, whatever you thought you knew, I'm not gonna say throw it out the window, but use it in the right timing.
Low key, yeet
that joint. Point noted. I'm taking all these notes right
now. I'm like,
that junk in the trunk.
My notes app is currently empty, but I'm taking all them notes.
Everything our parents told us, just disregard it.
Just disregard all of it.
But use it in its appropriate time. That's what I'm saying. Just use it in its right time. And that don't mean you're not going to be able to use it at the right time. But sometimes what you think is right may not be needed at that moment because maybe they just need love. Maybe they just need a conversation. Maybe that'll stop them from doing it. But you yelling at them, telling them stop, no, don't, that won't work. You know what I mean? And I think as a black culture, we have that bad. Like, we definitely have that thing of correcting and demanding and power and all this stuff. And it's like, you got to love your child. Like, and we have to learn a new way to love. Love does not mean abuse. Love does not mean power and telling them to do this, do that all the time. In a very demanding way. Like, you're not going to get far. So, yeah, Osan.
I'll give my literal 2-piece and maybe a biscuit. I remember I think it was my mom telling me, kids don't come with a manual. Like, y'all don't come with a manual. So I'm just doing with the best that I can. And I remember her even telling me, you know, the day that I had you, it was like a couple weeks after I had you, I called up my mom in tears and I told her, I'm sorry I didn't understand until now. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, all right, like I hear all that. Why the heck are you raising me the way you're raising me still, right?
Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, why? And it's not been until the past few years, I think right before I got married, that me and my little brother started having some real conversations about the way we were raised, and just saying, not saying I'll never do that to my kids, or I'll never raise my kids like that, or I'm going to raise them the exact opposite, but coming to the realization and mourning the fact that our parents weren't as perfect as maybe we had wanted them to be. And being able to say, man, mom and dad were just broken people, and they dealt with some real trauma. I mean, both my parents immigrants. My dad almost got deported when I was 18 months old, and my mom was told, listen, because you're on a student visa and work probably won't be able to come your way, we're going to take the kid from you after we deport your husband and put him in the system, and he's just going to be a kid in the foster system. Dealing with all that, both of my parents coming here, especially my mom, and not having anyone to help her raise me or anything like that. It's just my dad, and he's working 2-3 jobs trying to make things make sense, and so they're just trying to do the best that they can. But one of the most freeing things for me was a mentor told me recently, is him and I were talking about me becoming a father, and he said, what conversations have you and your wife had around how you guys are going to be better than your parents? I was like, that's actually a really good question, because he said, me and my wife, he said, my wife had a crazy upbringing. He said, my parents were present, but they were a mess. And he said, what we committed to do was to make sure that our grandchildren would see a better version than what we knew growing up. So he said, we committed to say, these are the things, these are the cycles that end with us. And so that's something that I've committed to myself, is looking at the way, like, my parents have been married for 33 years, going on 34. Yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's 34 years, but like, y'all don't show no kind of affection. If I didn't know y'all were married, I wouldn't know that y'all were married. Like, I don't want a marriage like that. And I remember some of the hard spaces, and even like right now, them trying to deal with being empty nesters. Like, it's been a hard transition. And I know a lot of that is due to the fact that gap of, my mom giving up her teaching career to be a stay-at-home mom, and investing 30 years of her life into her kids, and not knowing anything else or figuring out what's next. Like, I see all of those things, and I'm like, dude, I got to make sure that certain cycles end with me, and make sure that when my kid comes in, if I have more after that, that the cycle ends with me. And so that when they have kids, their kids can look and say, man, grandpa and grandma, like, they're not perfect, but I love them, and they they're doing their thing. Yeah. And it's not a case of, when I look at, like, when I think about my kids going to hang out with my parents, right? Like, there's a little bit of apprehension, because I'm like, like, stuff is still a little rough between us. It's still a little, because of that assertion of power. Yeah. And that, when you look at a Nigerian family, like, that power structure and the absolute respect that you have to have for elders.
I can only imagine.
It's different. But my dad, for example, started to come around recently. Mom, not so much. But I look at those things, and I think, you guys love God. You guys did the best that you could. But there's some things that you guys just don't see in terms of blind spots. Yeah. And those blind spots are cycles that have continued, but those blind spots end with me. And that's my starting pad. That's my launching pad, is to know that this is the cycle that ends with me, and we're going to continue on and be better and be greater.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that, all this from Last Chance U. Good job, babe.
Look at that. Look at how